My own son betrayed me, and he thought I'd just sit there, old and broken, and take it. But what he didn't know, what he could never imagine, is that I still had one move left, and it was a move that would haunt him for the rest of his life. That thought hit me the night Hazel died. Christmas Eve. The hospital smelled like bleach and plastic candy canes taped to the nurse's station. My wife, my partner of 40 years, took her last breath with my hand on hers, whispering the same prayers she used to say when Ace was a boy. I called him. God knows I called him. Over and over, my voice breaking on the voicemail. She needs you. Your mother needs you. And where was he? Miami Beach, laughing in the sun. I didn't have to guess. I saw it on Instagram. His wife posted a video of him clinking glasses, the ocean behind him, champagne while his mother's heart stopped. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. That's when it cracked inside me. Something I'd been holding together for decades finally split apart. I had given that boy everything. Roof over his head, tuition, a down payment on his damn house. And he couldn't bother to bury his own mother? That night, standing in Hazel's empty kitchen, I said out loud to no one but the ghosts, never again. Not one more dime. Not one more excuse. He's about to learn what it means to be my son. And as I spoke, the wind rattled the old greenhouse Hazel loved so much, the glass panes trembling like they knew a storm was coming. What Ace didn't know, what he couldn't even imagine, was that the storm had already started and it had my face on it. Because I wasn't just going to cut him off. I was going to make him choke on every easy dollar I'd ever handed him. And when I finally looked down at Hazel's garden gloves lie on the counter, still dusted with soil, I realized my war had just begun. The funeral was gray, the kind of gray that soaks into your bones. Hazel deserved sunlight, hymns echoing through stained glass, but instead, the sky spat freezing rain over a crowd too small for a woman who gave so much. I stood there in my black coat, holding the folded program with her picture smiling back at me, and all I could think was, Ace should be here. Her boy should be here. I called him again, one last try, straight to voicemail. Then, as the pastor cleared his throat, I felt my phone buzz. It wasn't Ace. It was his wife, Aria. A notification. Curious, foolish maybe, I opened it. A video. There he was. My son, shirtless, bronze in the Florida sun, glass of rum in his hand, laughing with friends as fireworks popped over Miami Beach. Caption, best Christmas ever. I swear to you, the air left my lungs. My knees buckled, and I stepped back, hiding behind the tool shed at the cemetery so no one could see the rage tearing through me. Hazel's coffin was being lowered into ground, and her only child was too busy posting vacation reels. I dialed again, blocked. He had actually blocked my number. His mother's funeral. And he shut me out like I was some telemarketer. That was the moment the grief sharpened into something else. Not sorrow. Not even anger. Something colder. Like steel. I looked up at the oak tree swaying above Hazel's grave, rain dripping off its branches, and I whispered, You spoiled him, Hazel. We both did. But that ends today. He's going to feel this. He's going to feel all of it. And just as the first handful of dirt hit her coffin, my decision was sealed. Ace thought he'd buried his mother that day, but he had no idea he'd buried his last lifeline too. After the service, people trickled away, leaving me under that heavy sky with nothing but damp flowers and silence. I wasn't ready to go home. My shoes sank in the mud as I wandered toward the bench near the gates. That's where Elias found me. Old friend, fishing buddy, the kind of man who doesn't need to ask what's wrong because it's written all over your face. He sat beside me without a word for a while, just chewing on a toothpick, watching the last cars roll out of the lot. Finally, he said, Ace didn't show, huh? I shook my head. My throat felt raw. He blocked me, Eli. His own mother's funeral, and he blocked me. Elias didn't flinch. He just spat the toothpick into the mud and muttered, Then it's time you stop carrying him. Hazel, God rest her soul, she babied that boy. But you gotta let him fall, or he'll never learn. I wanted to argue. For decades, Hazel and I had been the safety net. Tuition when he dropped out. Rent when he couldn't hold a job. Mortgage payments when he decided a flashy house mattered more than a steady paycheck. We told ourselves we were helping. But sitting there, Hazel in the ground, Elias's words hit like a hammer. Maybe we weren't helping. Maybe we were just feeding the fire. You think you're protecting him, Elias said, leaning close, but you're protecting him from himself. And that's the worst kind of lie a father can tell. The rain slowed. The clouds tore open just enough to let a sliver of pale light spill across Hazel's grave. It felt like she was listening, like she was waiting for me to answer. I closed my eyes and said it, barely above a whisper, "No more. He's on his own now." And that's when the plan started to take shape, cold, deliberate, unstoppable. What Ace didn't know was that his free ride had already ended, and soon he was going to hear it from me. Back home, the silence was brutal. No Hazel humming in the kitchen, no gentle clatter of her teacups. Just me, the ticking clock, and the sound of rain dripping off the gutters. I sat at the desk where she used to pay bills, opened the laptop, and pulled up the bank accounts. 10 years of transfers scrolled in front of me, row after row of money funneled into Ace's so-called dream home. $250,000. $250,000 bled out of Hazel's savings, out of mine, all so Ace could live in a house too big for his character. I could still hear Hazel's voice, soft but firm. "He just needs a little more time, Beck. He'll find his way." But Hazel was gone, and staring at those numbers, I realized what Elias meant. We hadn't helped him find his way. We'd built him a highway paved with our sacrifice, and he'd been speeding blind down it for years. My hand hovered over the Cancel Automatic Payments button. For a moment, I hesitated. A father's instinct doesn't die easy. But then I saw it again in my mind. The video of Ace on the beach, drink in hand, while his mother was lowered into the ground. My finger didn't shake anymore. I clicked. The weight slid off my chest, replaced by something sharper, cleaner, power. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't Ace's safety net. I was his reckoning. I stood and walked into Hazel's greenhouse. Her gloves were still by the potting bench, soil dry in their seams. I slipped them on, breathing in the scent of rosemary and damp earth. She loved this place. This was her sanctuary. And now it was mine. But as I looked at the rows of her orchids, I felt something shift inside me. Cutting Ace off wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Because soon enough, he'd realize the safety rope was gone. And when he did, he'd come running back to me, straight into the fire I'd been waiting to light. 2 weeks passed in silence. For once, no late-night texts asking for just a little help. No calls dripping with excuses. I almost believed maybe Ace had figured it out. Then my phone lit up. His name. I stared at it, my thumb hovering, before I answered. "Dad?" "Yeah, listen. Something's wrong with the mortgage. Payment didn't go through. Must be some glitch on your end." His voice had that casual arrogance, like this was just a clerical error his father would fix. My jaw tightened. "It's no glitch, Ace. I stopped paying." There was silence, then a scoff. "Stop paying? What are you talking about? You can't just—" "I can, and I did. Your mother's gone. You didn't show up. You didn't even pick up the damn phone. That house is your responsibility now." His tone shifted, brittle at the edges. "Dad, come on. You know I'm slammed at work. Miami's crazy. I couldn't just drop everything." I cut him off. "You dropped her, Ace. You left your mother alone on her last night. Don't talk to me about being busy." For the first time, I heard panic slip through his polished act. "If the bank flags me, it's over. I'll lose the house, my credit, everything. You can't do this." I almost laughed. 35 years old and still cry about credit like a teenager who maxed out a card. You'll survive, or you won't. Either way, it's on you now. He tried the guilt play next, his voice trembling. "Mom would never forgive you for this." I let the words hang, heavy as stone. Mom forgave too much. I won't. The line went dead quiet. For a second, I thought he'd hung up, then came the venom. "If you think you can just cut me off like some stranger, you're out of your mind." And before I could answer, The call dropped, but I knew him. Ace doesn't retreat. He reloads. And I had a feeling the next call was going to hit harder. It didn't take long. The very next day, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I knew who it was before I even picked up. Dad, it's me? Don't hang up. Look, I get it, you're mad. But you can't just walk away from this. I've got responsibilities. His voice was softer now, rehearsed almost like he'd switched masks. I leaned back in Hazel's old chair, staring at the dust motes in the sunlight. Your responsibilities are exactly why I walked away, Ace. He tried again. You don't understand. The pressure I'm under. Work is brutal. I'm building something. I can't do it if I'm worried about bills, and... Hazel worried about bills for 40 years. I snapped. She worried while she skipped vacations, while she took double shifts. You never saw it because we shielded you. Well, the shield's gone. There was a pause, then a sharp edge in his tone. So what? You're punishing me? You want me homeless? You want me to fail? I let the silence hang, then said, calm as stone, I want you to learn. Another call came that night. Different number. This time his voice cracked, desperate. Dad, I panicked, okay? I was scared to see Mom in the hospital. I didn't know how to handle it. I messed up, but you can't just cut me off forever. That's cruel. For a moment, something inside me trembled. He sounded like the boy I once carried on my shoulders through Little League games. But then I remembered the video, sunlight, champagne, laughter, his mother in the ground. My resolve hardened. You blocked me, Ace, on the day she was buried. That's who you are, and that's what I'm done protecting. He cursed, low and bitter, before the line went dead again. I sat there in the silence of Hazel's greenhouse, the orchids glowing in the moonlight, and I realized these calls weren't about love. They were about lifelines. And soon, Ace would be drowning without one. Then, silence. Days rolled into weeks without a single call. No new numbers flashing across my phone. At first, I didn't trust it. I half expected him to show up at my door, pounding until the neighbors came out to watch. But he didn't. It was as if the world had gone still. And in that quiet, something unexpected happened. I began to breathe again. Each morning, I walked into Hazel's greenhouse. The air was heavy with rosemary, mint, and the faint sweetness of her orchids. I slipped on her gloves, still worn at the fingertips, and tended to the soil. It felt like she was there with me, guiding my hands, whispering in the rustle of the leaves. The rage inside me softened, not gone, but steadier, sharpened into resolve. I started visiting her grave on Sundays. I'd sit by the oak tree, tell her about the week, about Elias stopping by, about the way the house felt emptier without her humming through the halls. I told her about the decision I'd made. Too, that Ace would no longer feed on what we built together. It wasn't just punishment. It was justice. One evening, I sat at the desk and opened a travel site. For years, Hazel had dreamed of Africa. Sunsets over the Serengeti, elephants at dawn. She clipped photos from magazines, tucked them into cookbooks. We always said someday. That night, I booked the ticket. Not someday. Now, in her name. For the first time since Christmas Eve, I felt a sliver of peace. A life beyond grief, beyond Ace's shadow, was waiting. But peace is fragile. And as a confirmation email flashed on my screen, my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. And I knew silence never lasts. The screen lit up with that unknown number, and my gut told me exactly who it was. I almost let it ring out, but something in me wanted to hear what mask Ace would wear this time. So I answered, Dad, listen, I'm not calling to fight. I need your help. Just one more time. His voice carried that strained calm, the kind addicts use when they think they can bargain. I didn't say a word. I let the silence work on him. He filled it fast. The bank's breathing down my neck. Area's panicking. If I miss another payment, it's foreclosure. That means my career, my reputation, gone. Do you want your own son ruined in front of everyone? I could almost see him rehearsing the lines in a mirror, always worry about image, about how the neighbors or his colleagues might see him. Not once about his mother, lying cold in the ground. "You've ruined yourself, Ace," I finally said. My voice came out low, steady. "You've been digging this hole for years. All I did was take away the ladder." His calm cracked. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? People are going to find out I can't even pay my own mortgage. They'll laugh at me. They'll think I'm weak." I almost smiled. "Maybe they'll think you're human. Or maybe they'll think you're finally responsible for something." There was a pause, then venom. "You're not teaching me anything. Oh, man, you're destroying me. And when this blows up, don't think I'll be the only one people look at." The threat hung there, ugly and desperate. He wanted to turn shame into leverage, as if dragging my name down would somehow lift his. I didn't bite. I just let him spit fire until the line went dead. But later that night, staring at Hazel's gloves on the bench, I realized something chilling. This wasn't just about money anymore. Ace was about to make it public. It didn't take long for Ace to make good on his threat. A week later, Elias called me, his voice low with a mix of pity and anger. "Beck, have you seen Facebook today?" I hadn't, but when I opened it, my hands clenched. There was a long, dramatic post from Ace, tagged for the whole family tree to see. "Abandoned by my own father after Mom's death. Left to drown with no support. Guess blood doesn't mean much when you're over 60 and bitter." Hundreds of likes, sympathetic comments flooding in. Old friends of Hazel's writing things like, "So sorry you're going through this, Ace," or "Stay strong. Your mom will want you to be happy." And there, buried in the thread, was a picture Arya posted Ace sitting in his massive living room with his head in his hands, framed just so, like a magazine spread on tragedy. He thought he'd painted me as a villain, a cold-hearted father cutting his son loose in the darkest time of his life. But then the cracks started to show. A co-worker, someone I didn't even know, commented, "Funny, weren't you in Miami when your mom passed? Didn't see you take a day off then." Another added, "Didn't you brag about that new car last month? Where's all that money now?" The likes slowed. The sympathy soured. The thread turned on him like dogs circling. And for the first time, I saw Ace exposed not by me, but by his own lies collapsing under their weight. Elias called again that night, chuckling. Didn't even have to lift a finger. "Beck, he's torching himself." But I knew my silence wasn't the end. No, this was just round one. Because humiliation, once it starts, has a way of multiplying. And Ace hadn't even begun to taste it. It wasn't Facebook that broke him next. It was work. A former colleague of Hazel's, God bless small towns, ran into me at the grocery store. She leaned over a cart and whispered, "Beck, did you hear?" Ace made a scene at the office. Later that night, I saw it for myself. Someone had filmed it on their phone. The video was already spreading. There he was, my son, standing in a glass-wall conference room, voice raised, veins bulging. "Do you people have any idea who I am? My father should have handled this. I shouldn't be dealing with mortgage crap while I'm trying to lead this team." His co-workers sat frozen, glancing at each other, some biting back smirks. One brave soul muttered, "Maybe pay your own bills, Ace." Laughter rippled through the room. "And Ace," he snapped, slammed his fist on the table, so hard the water bottles jumped. But the damage was done. Someone posted the clip with the caption, "CEO problems. Daddy won't pay the mortgage." Within hours, it spread like wildfire. Memes popped up, photoshopped images of Ace lounging on Miami Beach with dollar signs raining over him. The word "daddy" in bold letters across the sky. For a man obsessed with appearances, it was poison. His polished image, the smooth talker in designer suits, it crumbled in a single day. He became a punchline. Elias came over that evening, dropped a six-pack on the table, and said, "Did you see your boy trending on Twitter?" Never thought I'd live to watch Ace of all people turn into a meme. I wanted to feel pity. A father's heart is wired that way. But when I thought of Hazel alone in her hospital bed, pity curdled into something else. Because Ace wasn't done sinking yet. And the deeper he went, the more the world would watch. If the Facebook post was a stumble and the office meltdown was a fall, then what came next was a full-on collapse. It happened at a charity gala. Hazel used to love those, dressing up, shaking hands, raising money for the local hospital. Ace showed up this year, all polished on the outside, but I knew the storm was brewing underneath. And sure enough, it broke. Someone sent me the footage later. Ace, standing at the podium, glass of whiskey in hand, tie loose, eyes red. He was supposed to be giving a speech about community giving. Instead, he launched into a rant. You all think I'm some spoiled kid living off handouts. But you don't know what it's like to be abandoned by your own father, to be thrown to the wolves after everything you promised. The room went stiff. You could see people shifting uncomfortably, forks clinking against plates. Then, right on cue, a voice in the back shouted, "You mean after he paid your bills for 10 years?" The crowd erupted. Some laughed, some booed, some simply turned their backs. Phones came out, recording, capturing every second as Ace's face crumpled in real time. His anger boiled over. He slammed the mic down, cursed, stormed off the stage. Aria trailed behind him, her heels clicking, her face pale with embarrassment. By morning, the clip was everywhere. News blogs picked it up, headlines like "Local exec melts down at gala, blames dad for bills." Even radio DJs were laughing about it during the morning drive. Ace wasn't just a meme now. He was a spectacle, a cautionary tale. And me, I didn't have to lift a finger. The world was doing the work for me. But watching his empire pride burn down, I realized something important. Humiliation wasn't the end. It was just clearing the ground. And what came next will be the real reckoning. After the gala fiasco, the calls finally stopped. No more fake numbers, no more bargaining, no more venom. Just silence. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't in months, freedom. Every morning, I walked into Hazel's greenhouse. The air was warm and alive, even in the dead of winter. Her orchids had started blooming, white and violet, their petals open like small prayers. I found myself talking to them, as if she were still there, hands in the dirt, humming old country songs under her breath. I started setting things in order, paid off the last of my own debts, donated her clothes to the church, boxed up photos of us when we were young, the road trips, the dances, the Christmas mornings before Ace's selfishness swallowed them whole. Each act felt like laying a stone on a new foundation, one Hazel would be proud of. And then one evening, I opened my email. The subject line glowed like a doorway. "Your trip to Tanzania confirmed." I stared at it for a long while, my chest tightening. Hazel had dreamed of this for decades. Sunrise over the Serengeti, elephants marching like shadows against the horizon. She never made it, but I would. For her. With her. I printed the itinerary and placed it on the greenhouse bench beside her gloves. The paper rustled in the quiet, as if she were nodding in approval. For the first time, I wasn't weighed down by grief or anger. I was carrying something lighter, steadier, purpose. But deep inside, I knew Ace wasn't finished. Men like him never accept silence. They claw, they beg, they strike back. And when he did, I'd be ready, because my journey was only beginning. Just when I thought the silence might hold, the storm broke. It always does. I was sitting in Hazel's greenhouse, watering her orchids, when the knock came. Hard, desperate. I opened the door, and there he was, Ace. No phone filters, no curated smile. Just sweat on his brow, suit wrinkled, eyes wild. "Dad, we need to talk." For a moment, I didn't recognize him. The polished veneer was gone, stripped bare by weeks of ridicule. He looked smaller somehow, like a balloon with the air leaking out. He stepped inside without waiting. His voice shook between anger and panic. "You've ruined me. Do you understand that? My job's gone. Aria's packed her bags. People laugh when I walk into a room. You didn't just cut me off, you destroyed my life." I leaned against Hazel's potting bench, letting him spill it all. "You destroyed your life, Ace. I just stopped cleaning up the mess." He slammed his fist against the glass, the orchids trembling from the impact. "You think this makes you some kind of hero? Teaching me a lesson? You've made me a joke." "A joke, Dad." His voice cracked, raw and hoarse. For a flicker of a second, I saw the scared boy he used to be. But then he sneered, spitting venom again. You're nothing without Mom. You'll die alone in this damn house, and I'll dance on your grave just like you let her rot in hers. The words cut deep, but I didn't flinch. Hazel's gloves were on the bench beside me, dirt still in the seams. I slipped one hand into them, feeling her strength steady me. I looked him dead in the eye and said, calm as a blade, "You've had your stage, Ace. Now it's my turn." And from the way his face drained, he knew something was coming, something final. After Ace stormed out of the greenhouse, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled, I just stood there, breathing in the silence he left behind. My heart was steady. No rage, no panic, just clarity. I walked back to the desk and opened the old wooden box Hazel used to keep her travel clippings in. Inside were yellowed magazine pages of elephants, safaris, and maps dotted with circles she'd drawn. At the bottom, folded carefully, was a note in her handwriting. "One day, Beck, promise me." I set it on the desk beside the printed itinerary. My promise was already in motion. But Hazel's voice echoed in my head. "Don't just survive. Make it count." And that's when the idea came. The final cut. I gathered every document, every bank statement, every transfer to Ace's mortgage. 10 years of receipts stacked like bricks in a wall. I slid them into a neat binder, labeled it in bold marker, "What we gave." The next morning, I called Elias. He showed up with that toothpick grin, shaking his head as I explained. "You're going to show him the cost, huh? Make him choke on it." "Not just him," I said. "Everyone." That week, I spoke to the bank. Canceled every tie, every co-signature, every safety net Hazel and I had built around Ace. It wasn't enough to pull the rope. I was cutting it clean. And then I mailed the binder, not to Ace, to his office, addressed to the board, the same men and women who had watched his meltdown, pages and pages of proof, the house, the tuition, the endless bailouts, evidence of man who lived on borrowed ground. As I sealed the envelope, Hazel's gloves lay on the counter, soil flecked across the wood. I slipped them on one last time, and I whispered, "This one for you." Ace thought humiliation had reached its peak, but he hadn't seen public exposure. Not yet. It hit like a thunderclap. The board didn't keep it quiet. They never do. Within days, the binder I'd mailed was making the rounds, photocopied, whispered over, slipped under doors. 10 years of Lifeline spelled out in black and white. Tuition checks, mortgage payments, emergency transfers labeled again and again. Proof that their golden boy wasn't golden at all, just gilded by his parents' sacrifice. And then came the meeting. Someone recorded it. I didn't have to be there to see it. Ace, standing red-faced at the head of the table, stammering as the directors flipped through pages. One of them leaned back and said, "So, Ace, tell us again about self-made success?" The room erupted in laughter. Bitter, cutting laughter. The clip leaked online. Within hours, the same internet that once mocked him with memes now feasted on the revelation. Headlines blared. "Local exec built on daddy's wallet." Old photos of Hazel and me resurfaced, smiling beside Ace, now captioned with biting jokes. "Investors since day one." He couldn't outrun it. At the grocery store, neighbors whispered. At restaurants, waiters smirked. Even his gym buddies filmed him sneaking out the back door. His reputation wasn't just bruised, it was shattered. And me? I watched it unfold from Hazel's greenhouse, her orchids blooming brighter than ever. I didn't need to raise my voice, didn't need to touch him. The truth did the work. The world did the rest. But as satisfying as it was, I knew it wasn't the end. No, Ace still had one card left. And desperate men played desperate games. I could feel it coming. The final storm. The final storm came not with rage, but with a knock. Late evening. I opened the door, and there stood Ace, hollow-eyed, shoulders slumped, suit hanging off him like it belonged to someone else. No cameras, no wife, no boardroom. Just my son, stripped bare. "Dad, please. I've got nothing left." For a heartbeat, the father in me stirred. The boy who once ran across the yard with skinned knees was standing there, asking for mercy. But then the images flooded back. Hazel's empty hospital bed, the Instagram video, the laughter in Miami while her heart stopped, my hand tightened on the doorframe. I gave you everything. Ace, your mother gave you everything, and you threw it all away. He shook his head, tears brimming. I can change. I swear. Just don't leave me with nothing. I turned, picked up Hazel's glove from the counter, and held them out. Soil still clung to the seams. This is all I have left of her. She worked these hands to the bone, so you could have a life. You want something? Start with dirt. Start where she started. His face twisted, rage and shame, fighting for dominance. He slapped the gloves away, stormed off into the night. Tires screeched down the road, fading into nothing. I stood there, gloves in hand, the silence deep as cathedral. And I realized this was the ending, not revenge by fire or fists, not reconciliation either, justice, balance. The next morning, I boarded the plane, over the Serengeti. The sun broke the horizon, a flood of gold over endless plains. I slipped Hazel's glove from my bag, resting them on the tray table. For the first time, I smiled without weight. Ace had lost everything but his reflection. And me? I kept my honor, my promise, and Hazel's dream alive. In the end, that was the real victory. And that is how I buried my son without digging a grave. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right.